Dr. Benjamin Shamir's hands froze over the patient's chest as recognition hit him like a sledgehammer to the gut. The face on the gurney unconscious, bloodied from a car accident, but unmistakably familiar, belonged to the man who had ordered the execution of his entire unit in Gaza 15 years ago. The man whose voice still echoed in Ben's nightmares, speaking perfect Hebrew as he interrogated captured Israeli soldiers on grainy video footage broadcast across the Middle East. "Doctor, we need to move now," Nurse Patricia Rodriguez shouted over the chaos of the emergency room. "He's going into shock." Ben stepped back from the gurney, his surgical gloves trembling. The monitors showed dropping blood pressure, erratic heart rhythm. The man was dying. "Get Dr. Martinez," Ben said, his voice barely audible. "What?" Patricia stared at him in disbelief. "Ben, you're the trauma surgeon on duty. This man needs surgery right now or he's going to die." Ben looked at the patient's wallet that had been removed during triage. The Illinois driver's license read, Ahmad Nazari, age 52. But Ben knew better. This was Colonel Mahmoud Rashidi of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the butcher of Gaza, the man who had tortured his best friend to death while forcing Ben to watch through a sniper scope from 300 meters away. "I can't," Ben whispered. "I can't treat him." Patricia grabbed his arm. "Ben, what's wrong? You've never hesitated before." Ben pulled away, backing toward the exit. "Get another surgeon. Anyone else?" "There is no one else. Martinez is in surgery. Williams is off duty, and this man has maybe 10 minutes before he bleeds out internally." The emergency room erupted around them. Other staff members turned to stare as Ben continued backing away from the patient. The monitors attached to Rashidi showed his vital signs deteriorating rapidly. "Dr. Shamir," called Dr. Helena Walsh, the chief of emergency medicine, as she approached with a clipboard. "What's the status here?" "He's refusing to treat the patient," Patricia said, her voice tight with frustration and confusion. Dr. Walsh looked between Ben and the dying man on the gurney. "Ben, what's going on?" "I have a conflict of interest," Ben said, struggling to keep his voice steady. "I need to recuse myself from this case." "A conflict of interest? What kind of conflict could you possibly have with a car accident victim?" Ben couldn't explain without revealing who Rashidi really was. And if he revealed that, it would raise questions about how he knew questions that would lead back to his military service, his real identity, everything he had worked 15 years to leave behind. "I just can't treat him," Ben repeated. "Doctor." Walsh's expression hardened. "Dr. Shamir, I don't care if this man owes you money or slept with your wife. You took an oath. You treat the patient in front of you, no exceptions." "Helena, please." "No exceptions, Ben. Treat him or turn in your license." The monitors began alarming more urgently. Rashidi's blood pressure was dropping to critical levels. Patricia stepped closer to Ben. "Look, I don't know what's going on with you, but this man is somebody's father, somebody's husband. Whatever history you think you have with him, right now he's just a patient who needs help." Ben stared at Rashidi's unconscious face. Even 15 years older, even bloodied and broken, the features were unmistakable. The scar on his left temple from where an Israeli sniper had grazed him. The distinctive nose, broken in 2 places. This was definitely the man who had killed 7 members of Sayeret Matkal, Israel's elite special forces unit. "Time's up, Ben," Dr. Walsh said. "What's it going to be?" Ben looked around the emergency room. Every eye was on him. Nurses, residents, orderlies all watching as he faced the most impossible choice of his career. He stepped forward and snapped on fresh gloves. "Prep him for surgery," he said quietly, "and get me 2 units of O-negative blood." The next 3 hours passed in a blur of surgical precision and professional detachment. Ben worked methodically to repair internal bleeding, remove bone fragments from around the spine, and stabilize fractures. His hands moved with practiced skill while his mind fought to stay focused on the technical aspects of the procedure. Rashidi or Ahmad Nazari, as his papers claimed, survived a surgery. When Ben emerged from the operating room, he found Dr. Walsh waiting for him in the hallway. "Good work in there," she said. "Whatever was bothering you, you put it aside and did your job." "Is that all?" Ben asked. "Actually, no. I've been getting some unusual calls about our patient. The FBI wants to interview him when he wakes up. Apparently, his car accident might not have been so accidental." Ben's blood ran cold. What do you mean? Someone called in a tip that he was involved in some kind of international incident. They're treating him as a person of interest. In what? Dr. Walsh shrugged. They wouldn't say, but they've posted agents outside his room and they want to speak with everyone who treated him. Ben nodded and walked toward the locker room, his mind racing. If the FBI was interested in Rashidi, it meant his cover was blown. It meant someone else had recognized him too. In the locker room, Ben sat on a bench and pulled out his phone. He scrolled through his contacts until he found a number he hadn't called in 5 years. Mossad Liaison, Washington office. This is Barack, Ben said, using his old code name. I need to speak with someone immediately. Barack, we have you listed as inactive. Reactivate me. I have a priority situation. 20 minutes later, Ben met Agent Sarah Cohen in the hospital parking garage. She was a compact woman in her 40s, with the alert eyes of someone who had seen too much violence. Ben, what's so urgent that you're breaking 15 years of radio silence? Colonel Mahmoud Rashidi is in my hospital. I just saved his life. Sarah's expression didn't change, but Ben saw her hand move instinctively toward her concealed weapon. That's impossible. Rashidi died in a drone strike 3 years ago. I'm telling you, it's him. I recognized him immediately. Ben, you've been out of the game for 15 years. People change. You could be wrong. I'm not wrong. He has the scar on his temple, the broken nose, everything. It's him. Sarah was quiet for a moment, processing the implications. If you're right, what's he doing in Chicago with Illinois ID? That's what we need to find out. But Sarah, there's a problem. I refused to treat him initially. The whole emergency room staff saw me hesitate. Why did you hesitate? Ben's jaw tightened. Because he killed my unit. Because I watched him torture David Rosen to death. Because every night for 15 years, I've dreamed about putting a bullet in his head. But you treated him anyway. I'm a doctor. I took an oath. Sarah nodded slowly. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to verify his identity through facial recognition and biometrics. If you're right, we'll need to figure out what he's doing here and who he's working with. What about the FBI? Let me worry about the FBI. Your job is to keep him alive and conscious so we can question him. Sarah, I can't keep treating him. Every time I look at his face, I see David dying. I see the others. Ben, listen to me. If this really is Rashidi, he's not here by accident. Iranian Revolutionary Guard colonels don't just move to the American Midwest and become citizens. He's here for a reason, and that reason is probably going to get a lot of Americans killed. Ben leaned against his car, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on him. What if I can't do it? What if I lose it in there and finish what that car accident started? Then you're not the man I trained with 15 years ago, Sarah said. The Ben Shamir I knew was the best field medic in Sayeret Matkal. He saved lives under fire, patched up enemies as well as friends, and never let emotion compromise a mission. That was a long time ago. Not that long. And this is a mission, Ben. Maybe the most important one you've ever had. Ben's phone buzzed. A text from the hospital. Patient is awake and asking for his doctor. He's conscious, Ben told Sarah. Perfect. Go back in there, check on your patient, and keep your ears open. I'll be in touch within the hour. Ben walked back into the hospital, his mind churning with memories and conflicting emotions. In the elevator, he caught his reflection in the polished steel doors. He looked older, grayer, but his eyes still held the intensity that had made him one of Israel's most effective special operations medics. Rashidi's room was on the 4th floor, with 2 FBI agents stationed outside. They nodded as Ben approached, checking his hospital ID before allowing him to enter. The man in the bed looked smaller than Ben remembered, diminished by age and injury. But when his eyes opened and focused on Ben, there was an intelligence there that was unmistakable. "Doctor," Rashidi said in accented English, "I wanted to thank you. The nurses told me you saved my life." Ben checked the monitors, avoiding eye contact. "Just doing my job. Still, I am grateful. Not many doctors would have worked so hard to save a stranger. How are you feeling? Any pain?" "Some discomfort, but manageable." "Doctor, may I ask you something?" Ben's hand stilled on the blood pressure cuff. "What?" "You look familiar to me. Have we met before?" Ben forced himself to meet Rashidi's gaze. I don't think so. I'd remember. Rashidi studied his face for a long moment. Perhaps, but I have a good memory for faces. It served me well in my work. What kind of work do you do, Mr. Nazari? Import, export, mainly textiles from the Middle East. It requires a lot of travel, meeting many people. Ben nodded, making notes on Rashidi's chart. Well, you're going to need to take it easy for a few weeks. You had significant internal injuries. Doctor, the federal agents outside my room, do you know why they're here? They said something about your accident possibly not being accidental. Rashidi's expression darkened. I see. And what do you think? I think that's not my concern. I'm just here to make sure you recover. Of course. But between us, doctor to patient, do you believe people can truly escape their past? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Ben felt his heart rate increasing, his palms beginning to sweat. I think people can change, Ben said carefully. Whether they can escape their past, that's a different question. Rashidi smiled. And for a moment, Ben saw a flash of the cold calculation he remembered from 15 years ago. Indeed, sometimes the past has a way of catching up, no matter how far we run. Ben's phone vibrated with a text message. He glanced at it. It's him. Facial recognition confirms. Get out of there now. I need to check on my other patients, Ben said, moving toward the door. Doctor, Rashidi called after him. I hope we have a chance to talk again. I feel like we have more in common than you might think. Ben left the room without responding, his hands shaking as he walked past the FBI agents. In the hallway, he ducked into a supply closet and called Sarah. It's confirmed, she said immediately. Facial recognition, dental records from an old arrest. Everything matches. You were right. He knows who I am, Sarah. He recognized me. Are you sure? He asked if we'd met before. Said he had a good memory for faces. Shit. Okay, we need to move fast. How soon can you discharge him? Discharge him? He just had major surgery. He needs at least a week in the hospital. We don't have a week. If he's made you, he's probably already signaling his handlers. We need to get him into federal custody where we can question him properly. I can't discharge him. It would be medically irresponsible. He could have complications, infections. Ben, listen to me very carefully. Our intelligence indicates that Rashidi has been in the United States for at least 2 years, possibly longer. He's been building a network, recruiting assets, planning something big. What kind of something? We're not sure. But 3 other Iranian agents were arrested last week trying to infiltrate nuclear facilities in Tennessee and South Carolina. We think Rashidi might be coordinating a larger operation. Ben felt the walls closing in around him. So, what do you want me to do? Keep him stable enough to transfer to a secure facility. We'll handle the rest. And if he tries to leave? He won't. He's too smart for that. Right now, he's playing the role of Ahmad Nazari, innocent businessman. He'll stay in character until he figures out his next move. Ben hung up and returned to his rounds, trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy while his world spun out of control. Every time he passed Rashidi's room, he felt the man's eyes on him through the partially opened door. At 6 p.m., Dr. Walsh approached him near the nurse's station. Ben, I need to talk to you about your patient in 412. What about him? The FBI wants to transfer him to a secure medical facility. They're claiming it's for his own protection, but they won't give me details. When? Tomorrow morning. But here's the thing, they specifically requested that you oversee the transfer. They said you're the only doctor they trust to keep him stable during transport. Ben stared at her in disbelief. They requested me specifically? By name. Is there something you're not telling me about this case? Before Ben could answer, the lights in the hospital suddenly went out. Emergency power kicked in a few seconds later, bathing everything in red emergency lighting. What the hell? Dr. Walsh muttered. Ben's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Power grid failure was just a test. Tomorrow we take out the whole city. Unless you let our friend go, you have 12 hours. Ben showed the message to Dr. Walsh, whose face went pale. Ben, what is this? Who is this patient? I think, Ben said slowly, we're about to find out. The hospital's PA system crackled to life. All staff, please remain calm. We are experiencing a temporary power fluctuation. Normal power will be restored shortly. But Ben knew this was no fluctuation. This was a demonstration of power, a warning of what Rashidi's people could do if their demands weren't met. He looked toward room 412, where the FBI agents were speaking urgently into their radios. Through the partially open door, he could see Rashidi lying in bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling with a small smile on his face. Ben realized that saving the man's life hadn't ended anything. It had only begun the most dangerous game of his life. His phone rang. Sarah's voice was tight with tension. "Ben, we've got a problem. 3 hospitals in the city just lost power simultaneously. This wasn't random. I got a text. They want Rashidi released." "Not happening. But Ben, we think there might be a bomb in your hospital." Ben's blood turned to ice. "What?" "Bomb squad is en route. But if I'm right, Rashidi's people have been planning this for weeks. The car accident wasn't random. It was designed to get him into a hospital where his people had already placed explosive devices." "Why? What's the end game?" "We think they're going to level the building and blame it on a gas leak or electrical fire. Rashidi dies, taking his secrets with him, and dozens of American civilians die as collateral damage." Ben looked around the bustling emergency room, at the nurses, doctors, and patients who had no idea they might be sitting in a death trap. "How long do we have?" "Unknown. Could be minutes, could be hours. But Ben, there's something else." We ran deeper background on Ahmad Nazari's identity. He's been volunteering at children's hospitals around the city for the past year. "Volunteering for what?" "Reading to cancer patients, playing with kids in the pediatric ward, building trust with families." The implications hit Ben like a physical blow. "He's been recruiting." "We think so, using sick children as leverage to turn their parents into assets." "Ben, this man is a monster, and you saved his life." Ben closed his eyes, feeling the weight of every decision he'd made in the past 6 hours. "What do you need me to do?" "Get close to him. Find out where the bombs are planted. We need specific locations, timing, trigger mechanisms." "And how am I supposed to do that?" "However you can. But beneath this goes bad. If the building starts coming down, don't try to be a hero. Get yourself out, and let us handle the rest." Ben hung up and walked toward room 412, his mind made up. The 2 FBI agents outside looked nervous, constantly checking their radios and scanning the hallway. "Any problems?" Ben asked. "Nothing yet, but we're moving him out in 30 minutes. I need to check his vital signs one more time." Ben entered the room and closed the door behind him. Rashidi was awake, watching the news on the television mounted on the wall. "Doctor," Rashidi said without turning away from the screen, "have you been following the news about these power outages? Very concerning." "Mr. Nazari, I need to ask you some questions." "Of course, though I think you should call me by my real name now." Ben's hand moved instinctively toward the emergency call button, but Rashidi held up a finger. "I wouldn't do that if I were you. Not if you want to see tomorrow." "What do you want?" "What I've always wanted. Justice. Revenge. The destruction of my enemies." "And how does blowing up a hospital full of innocent people accomplish that?" Rashidi finally turned to look at Ben directly. "You think I don't remember you, Benjamin Shamir? Captain Benjamin Shamir of Sayeret Metkal, the medic who watched while his friends died?" Ben's fists clenched at his sides. "You tortured them to death. I interrogated enemy combatants who had invaded my country. What you call torture, I call necessary intelligence gathering. They were soldiers, not terrorists. And I am a soldier too. This is war, Captain Shamir. It has always been war. This is a hospital. These are civilians. These are Americans. Americans who support the Zionist regime that murdered my family, destroyed my country, and forced me to live in exile for 15 years. Ben stepped closer to the bed. "Where are the bombs?" Rashidi smiled. "Everywhere. In the walls, in the basement, in the parking garage. Enough explosives to level 6 city blocks." "Why tell me this?" "Because I want you to know that your choice to save my life was meaningless. I'm going to die today anyway, but I'm taking as many Americans with me as possible. There has to be another way." "There is. You can finish what that car accident started. Remove my IV, disconnect my monitors, and let me die quietly. Then perhaps my people will reconsider their plans." Ben stared at the man who had haunted his nightmares for 15 years. The choice was simple: commit murder or watch hundreds of innocent people die. You have 5 minutes to decide, Rashidi said. After that, the bombs detonate automatically. Ben reached for his phone to call Sarah, but Rashidi grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. No calls, no alerts, just you, me, and the choice you should have made 15 years ago. Ben looked at the monitors showing Rashidi's vital signs, at the IV drip keeping him hydrated, at the oxygen mask that would be so easy to adjust just slightly. I'm a doctor, Ben said. I save lives. Then save the lives that matter. Save the children in the pediatric ward. Save the pregnant women in maternity. Save the old people who remind you of your grandparents. Ben's hands trembled as he reached toward the IV line. That's it, Rashidi whispered. Just pull it out. Let me bleed internally. Tell them there were complications from surgery. Ben's fingers touched the plastic tubing, and for a moment, everything was silent except for the sound of the monitors and his own racing heartbeat. Then he stepped back. No. What? I said no. I won't kill you. Rashidi's expression turned to rage. Then you've killed them all. Maybe, but I won't compromise who I am, even for them. Ben turned toward the door, but Rashidi's voice stopped him. Wait. Ben turned back. You really would let hundreds of people die rather than kill one man? That's what it means to be a doctor. First, do no harm. Rashidi studied his face for a long moment, then began to laugh. My God, you're exactly like your friend David. Stubborn, principled, stupid. David Rosen was a better man than both of us. Yes, he was. And that's why I'm going to tell you how to stop the bombs. Ben stared at him in shock. What? The detonator's in my jacket pocket, the one they brought with my personal effects. There's a remote devices mall, black. Looks like a garage door opener. Why are you telling me this? Because 15 years ago, David Rosen chose to die rather than reveal military secrets. He could have saved himself by giving me the information I wanted. Instead, he chose honor. Rashidi's voice grew quiet. I respected him for that choice, even as I killed him for it. And now you've made the same choice. You chose your principles over practical considerations. So you're going to let everyone live? I'm going to give you the chance to save them. What you do with that chance is up to you. Ben found the remote in Rashidi's jacket and disabled it just as the FBI agents burst through the door. What's happening in here? One of them demanded. Medical emergency, Ben said calmly. But it's under control now. Later, as Rashidi was transferred to federal custody and the bomb squad finished removing devices from throughout the hospital, Ben sat in the parking garage with Sarah. I still don't understand why he told you about the detonator, she said. Because he realized something. What? That honor isn't about nationality or religion or politics. It's about making the right choice when everything inside you wants to make the wrong one. Ben looked back at the hospital where hundreds of people continued their lives, unaware of how close they'd come to death. David Rosen died with honor 15 years ago. Today, his killer chose to let that honor mean something. And what about you? What did you choose? Ben stood up and walked toward his car. I chose to be a doctor, even though it nearly got everyone killed, especially because of that. As he drove home, Ben thought about the Hippocratic oath he'd taken 20 years ago. First, do no harm. He'd never realized how complicated those 4 words could be. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Thank you for reminding me what honor looks like. A fellow soldier. Ben deleted the message and drove into the night, knowing that some choices are worth making even when they lead to impossible places.